Hi there, everybody. Dave here from HeyUGuys, and again, I am joined by the wonderful Stefan Pape to talk about a brand new TV show called The First Team. Now, I have to admit, I haven't seen this show whatsoever, but I know a man who has, and his name is Stefan Pape.
Yeah, it's good that I've seen it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, otherwise this review would be rubbish. We'd just be like, yeah, it's on tomorrow, BBC Two. It's going to be good. So as always, like, subscribe if you don't already. Let us know in the comments when you've seen the show what you think of it. If you disagree with us, if you agree with us, it's always really great to hear from you. So Stefan, The First Team. I didn't know much about it. I know it's from the guys who made the Inbetweeners, and that's basically it. So I think straight away it's great credentials. Tell us about it and the episodes you've seen. How were they? Were they any good? Take it away.
Yeah, so the premise is, I mean, it's set, it's a sort of Premier League football club, but it's a fictional side. So obviously there's no issues here of alienating any sort of football fans or annoying anyone. But I'd say because they kind of tap into kind of fan TV and stuff, it seems there's maybe a slight Arsenal influence on this series. And I'm not just saying that as a Spurs fan because I find them to be a comedic football club, but I think maybe that is the case here. But no, so the idea is it's delving into the kind of the inner workings of a football team, but from three kind of their younger players, and one of them being an American footballer who's come over, and he kind of represents the viewer. So he's the one who's kind of walked into kind of British football culture and is kind of a bit like, okay, what on earth is going on here? And also he's not a very good player, so he kind of reflects the viewer in many ways. But it's basically a kind of a work-based sitcom, it's akin, not obviously The Office is a mockumentary, but it's all about the kind of dynamics and the kind of quite relatable going to work everyday things that we don't associate with footballers because we just associate with seeing them on a pitch every Saturday afternoon. But this is about the kind of behind the scenes
driving their nice cars as well.
Oh yeah, but it is kind of what it's like to be a footballer in the kind of modern world, but sort of based on three quite hapless and almost, despite obviously being talented footballers, quite kind of low-key footballers. So they're kind of rising through the ranks of this side. But it is very funny, and it's obviously got that kind of in-betweeners stamp all over it, which basically means there's some really filthy jokes.
So this is going on to BBC Two, not Channel 4, which straight away I thought that's interesting because BBC was where The Office was as well. So they make fantastic stuff, just like Channel 4. So the creators, it's Iain, Morris and Damon Beesley. Is that right? Damon Beesley, yeah. I suddenly went to The Office and I was like, hang on a minute, that's Pat's surname, isn't it? You've done a fantastic interview with them, which people can watch on our YouTube channel now. They were talking very much about how, well, you asked the question about how the Inbetweeners had lots of their own stamp on it, how, jokes from their life and all that sort of stuff. And this seems a little bit different. But I mean, the main question is it funny? Does it hold up?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting because with the Inbetweeners, it was about four kind of hopeless young teenagers. And I think all of us at one point were hopeless young teenager. And I think Damon, Beesley and Iain Morris have been very open that the loads of themselves are in the characters, like you said. But in this instance, we're not all Premier League footballers and we idolise Premier League footballers. So you would imagine that they've lost that kind of sense of patheticness, which I think being slightly pathetic is what illuminates so much British comedy. If you look at Alan Partridge, David Brent, Irish comedy like Father Ted, you look at Peep Show, all these characters are just losers in many ways. And in this instance, they're kind of winners. So it was quite an interesting change of dynamic, but they are all a bit like the Inbetweeners, just very relatable, quite stupid, quite self-aware, quite, they get quite nervous about games. And it tackles kind of very similar kind of themes as that. But on the question of whether it's funny, it is funny. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It hasn't got quite the same punch as the Inbetweeners. But having said that, the Inbetweeners, I didn't watch it straight away and go, "Oh my god, this is brilliant." It took quite a while.
Nobody did. No, that was why it was so great. Yeah.
And then slowly you started to get to know the characters. Slowly the catchphrases started to become really funny. So even though I watched 2 episodes of The First Team, and I can sit here and say, yes, I enjoyed it. Yes, it's funny. It's not as good as the Inbetweeners. In 3 or 4 years' time, after 2 or 3 seasons, we could be all walking down the street shouting quotes from First Team. So I'm not going to say it's not as good, but maybe I just need to sit on it a little while longer. But I think the Inbetweeners had something unique and special about it. And I'd say the first team, despite being really funny, is just more just a good sort of modern sitcom, whereas the Inbetweeners felt like it transcended that somewhat.
Absolutely, and the image behind us, I mean, you can see the cast there, and there's a chap you may well recognise in the shape of Will Arnett. So I mean, he caught my eye straight away. You know, he's Batman. Let's face it, he's a cool dude. He's been around for a long time in the industry. He's very, very funny, but the main thing here is he's American in a British sitcom. So how does that work? How does he fit in?
Yeah, so I think maybe it's because, you know, the Inbetweeners, they did it in America, didn't they? They had maybe they're just so like against that happening again. They thought if we put an American in, Americans might not need to recreate it. But it does work. It works because he doesn't quite understand football. And I think one of the things, people might not like football and they might think, do I want to see the first team if I'm not a football fan? Well, it's because of characters like the one Will Arnett is playing, or like Jake Short's character, who, because they come from an outside perspective, and they and particularly for Will Arnett, doesn't quite get how football works. It kind of means, in some ways, it makes it an accessible show for people who also might not get football or follow football at all, which you don't need to enjoy this. But he is really funny. He's more of a kind of cameo sort of role. He's like the rich owner of the football club they play for. Chris Geere is really, really funny. He's a kind of coach. He's also in the image behind on the blonde hair guy on the right, and furthest to the right is Theo Barklem-Biggs, who plays the kind of
Inbetweeners.
Yeah, he's in Festa Festival.
Movie.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's in the movie as well. He's the friend. He's the guy who's sort of the really annoying guy from the hotel that they keep bumping into all the time.
Yes,
and
he's the one from the first movie. Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, I've seen that film like 10 times. I should have guessed that. But Theo Barklem, yeah, he's the kind of hard nut, the kind of no, you know, just bit of the Roy Keane type player in the middle. But he's really funny. And what this I would say with the first team is the lead three. So Shaquille Ali-Yebuah and Jake Short and Jack McMullen. They're in many ways, despite being the three lead roles, they're not the funniest. They're the kind of three that are thrown into this storm. And it's all the surrounding characters for me that really make it. They're the kind of ones who everything happens to them. So they're kind of like a bit like, you know, they're like the viewer. They're the ones kind of in the middle of this kind of world. And then it's all the supporting characters I find that really steal the show here. But that's not to criticize their performances. They are good, but I do think they're kind of the canvas in which all the other characters paint on. But it is a good cast. It's a bit of an unknown cast. They haven't gone for huge names really, other than Will Arnett and Chris Geere. But it could be the making of these three young lads for sure.
Yeah, brilliant. And Stefan, you got to speak to them as well on a Zoom call. Obviously, we're still stuck in the land of Corona at the moment, so we can't speak to them directly. And I think they were a bit gutted, actually, that they couldn't all get together and do a proper junket. But it was still really nice to have them all in the same room, you know, digital room, to have a chat. And yeah, I think they're just as excited as we are just to see their show, you know, hit TV, and so that everyone can have a watch and see what they think of it. So yeah, what just in closing then. So I'm not a massive football fan. I know you said when you were watching the screeners that your wife came in and she seemed to quite enjoy it as well and was laughing away. So yeah, what's your sort of takeaway? If you know, people should give this a go. Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like the Inbetweeners, which let's face it, everyone likes the Inbetweeners. It's got that kind of stamp. It's quite irreverent, kind of silly comedy. You know, there's, you know, you might, because it'd be very easy to think, oh, I don't like football, but there's scenes in the kind of dressing room where they start laughing about each other's bits and stuff like that, and it's that kind of silly Inbetweeners like comedy. Then the football, it's not got, you don't see football necessarily. It's just about three young lads in a workplace, and they could be working in a McDonald's, or they're working. Obviously, the fact they're working as footballers influences the story, and they get spotted on the street and stuff. But ultimately, it's just three young boys trying to make a career for themselves. And I think it doesn't. You don't need to be a big football fan, but I do think you should give it a go. I think that we're all in need of a good laugh at the moment. There's so many brilliant dramas and stuff starting on Netflix and, you know, Apple TV and Amazon. But to have a good old-fashioned BBC half-an-hour British sitcom is just exactly what the doctor ordered. And I think that, especially with no football on at the moment, this should fulfill a lot of needs, I think.
Yeah, I love the fact you wore your Spurs T-shirt during the director's interview.
I didn't know Damon Beesley was an Arsenal fan, though.
That's good. You can see all that on our YouTube channel. So yeah, Stefan got to speak to the creators. That's a nice extended half-an-hour interview as well, and they go into real depth about the Inbetweeners and about how that sort of, you know, how this came about during the making of season 2, I think they said, which is great. And then, like I said, you know, speaking with the cast as well. So do check all that out on our YouTube channel. Do let us know when you've seen this what you think of it. If you really didn't like it, let us know. If you love it, let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,